Hello lovely people, today I am super excited to show you and to see by myself Stereo Integrity BM-11 shallow mount subwoofer. So before we start, I would like to thank Nick Lemons for sending me the subwoofer for a review. It's really highly appreciated. Stereo Integrity is an American brand that makes some very cool stuff. One of those cool things is a 24-inch infinite baffle subwoofer, and now they make a shallow mount version of it as well. They do have some component speakers. They make one of the best, probably price per performance ratio subwoofers on the market because everybody loves Stereo Integrity subwoofers, and they do make this, which is an 11-inch shallow mount subwoofer. It comes in a box like this. We do have a little sticker that you can stick on wherever you want. Now instead of a manual, you get this, which is basic instructions. They're saying that optimal enclosure is half a cubic foot sealed. It takes up to 500 watts RMS. Strongly suggest using number 8 screws because it is a little bit heavy. We do have some contacts and we do have a drawing. So what we're going to do in this video is a few different things. We're going to unbox it, have a look how it looks like, go through all the basic external stuff, and then we're going to test it. So just a heads up, I will be directly comparing this to the Alpine shallow mount RS10W because I am choosing kinda my front subwoofer and I want to see which performs best. From the Alpine video, you saw that this came up at the top of the list from all the choices, but I straight away dismissed it because it is an American sub. Imported in the UK, it would cost quite a lot, so I cannot justify the price. Now, talking about the price, this costs now, I don't know how long it's gonna last, $400 on Stereo Integrity website, and full price is $500, so it's kind of the same as the Alpine. Let's take it out of the packaging and see how it looks like. It is packed in a bag. Let's take it out of the bag, and we do have straight away this gorgeous carbon fiber finish. So you can see it is a mirror finish, literally a mirror finish. Hello, there I am with my phone. Now, this subwoofer from few things is very similar to a typical subwoofer. From a few others is extremely different, which I haven't seen those features anywhere. First of all, if we have a look at the back, it looks like this. This is a Neo motor, quite big, quite heavy. It has a vent pole. It is a dual coil subwoofer. As you can see, dual 2 coils, so you can wire it up to 4 ohms or down to 1 ohm. So 500 watts, 1 ohm, that's literally a tiny micro amplifier that could drive this. Now you could use this subwoofer as almost a full-size subwoofer in the back, or 2 of them. However, since it's shallow, the main purpose why I'm testing it is for a front subwoofer application. Taking into consideration the fact that it needs only half a cubic foot of volume, it should be a very good performer. Now inside, you can see the coil. Let me take it out. See, that's the coil. It's going up, you can see it, and it's going down, you can see it over there as well. It has plenty of venting, plenty of airflow to go through. There's nothing restricted like the Alpine, and the construction of all of this motor structure and bottom part looks kind of similar as any other sub. The main difference from other subs is the cone and the surround. You can see that this cone is totally flat. Now this is very unconventional because if you know, flat surfaces flex, and they do flex very easy just because there's no reinforcement really. That's why all the subwoofers have either a cone, either something like this as Alpine did with some reinforcements so that it wouldn't flex potentially. Another thing is the material. Like this Alpine is made out of aluminium, which is a metal. However, this Stereo Integrity is carbon fiber. Now this cone itself, I can touch it from outside and from inside, and it is thick. I want to say it's probably like 5, 6 or even 7 millimeter thick. So it is much thicker than a typical cone. Like this aluminum Alpine is maybe 1 or 2 mil, very thin. And my guessing is that this cone is kind of made a sandwich out of a few layers of carbon fiber and some reinforcement inside, because if I would try to flex it anyway, it does not flex at all. Now from inside, you can see here, it is untreated carbon carbon fiber, so you can feel the roughness of it. And this side is totally gloss. The second difference between any other subwoofer is the surround. Again, Alpine, a normal, typical rubber surround. However, this one, it looks like it's a smaller one. However, it's kind of a two surrounds because the first crease goes inside the sub, similar to when we see on hybrid audio drivers, subwoofers and mid-basses and mid-ranges, where you have the surround going in and then it goes out. So it's kind of two surrounds in one, similar to the Alpine hammer surround, but that one has quite a few different ridges and this is just two. So by making surround that way, what you're potentially doing like this, you can see I'm going to take it out, you're making it kind of smaller, because you can see on this one, this is a massive surround, a very tall surround, and this one is almost flush with the driver. So it is unusual, but I guess Nick got it figured out, and I have no doubt that it performs as good or even better than a typical normal surround. I just want to very quickly compare the cone, because the cone on this one is 21.5 centimeters, the full cone, and on the Alpine it will be 19.5. So yes, this is exactly what I saw when I was comparing the SD, which is the cone area of these drivers, that this stereo integrity has a bigger cone than the Alpine. However, it has a little bit less X-Max. This is rated at 14 millimeters of X-Max, whereas the Alpine is rated 20. So in sealed enclosure, as I mentioned before, the output is determined by the cone displacement, which is VD, which is X-Max times SD. So even if these subwoofers have very different approaches, one has more excursion with smaller cone and the other one has smaller excursion with a bigger cone, the output is kind of the same on both. Now sensitivity wise, this is more sensitive driver, it's about 85 decibels, whereas this one is 78, which was the main comment of other people, that this Alpine is extremely insensitive. And yes, I do agree with it, it needs a lot of power. However, this one needs only 500 watts. Now, it is a dual 2 ohm version. So what you can do, you can wire it up to 4 ohms, use a big massive amplifier, or you can use a typical 4-channel amplifier and you connect each coil to a separate channel. And if you have quite a powerful Class D amplifier that does like 220 watts into 2 ohms, there's gonna be plenty enough for this one. So from the back, again, it looks very pretty. It is a very pretty subwoofer. The main thing that I want to see now is, can I fit this in the same enclosure, test enclosure, that I had my Alpine? Because I already have it, I don't want to make another one. Okay, aside, let's bring this one. So this is made for the Alpine. Will it fit? No, it's not gonna fit. It's a bit bigger. I will need to enlarge the hole. You can see here. Yeah, it doesn't fit. I thought it's gonna be very similar, but apparently it's not. So yeah, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take an impedance graph in free air, then I'm gonna enlarge this hole. This is a 0.3 cubic foot enclosure, which is not 0.5 as it is recommended, but this is basically the only thing that I can fit in my footwell at the moment. Later on, I will put it in a bigger enclosure just to see how it does in the rear as the main sub. So let me do some stuff, and then we're gonna measure it. So typically I don't do this, but I thought I'm gonna show you because I know people, American people with American subs, love excursion and stuff. So what I'm doing now, I'm just trying to break it in. So 12 hertz, very low frequency, high excursion. This is probably above X-Max. You can see, oh my god, I could barely hold it in because my hand is vibrating as well, but it has a lot of throw. Let me try to increase it a bit. There we go. Now you can hear some mechanical noise and you can see my hand is vibrating, and this is much more than 14 millimeters of excursion. This is close to 20. Yeah, it is pumping. It's really pumping. I do like how it looks like. In regards to braking, because a lot of people always ask, especially online, how long do you need to brake in, blah blah blah. 10 minutes at this is gonna be plenty enough. If you don't want to, just listen to music and it's gonna break in by itself. Let me try to show you a sweep. Now probably you can hear some chuffing from there. Yes, there is some chuffing. If I put my hand there, it's even worse. So yes, there is chuffing. Let me stop this. Okay, I have some music playing, and you can hear some chuffing. So yeah, it is chuffing a little bit from there. However, this is gonna be inside of the box, so it's not an issue. We will see if we'll be able to pick it up. However, in your enclosure, if you're gonna have chuffing at higher frequencies, probably some polyfill, like filling inside a sealed enclosure, would benefit that. But from the front, like from the top, it's totally silent and totally clean. So yeah, you're not gonna mount it inverted because it's not designed to be mounted inverted, but we'll test it in enclosure. So I'm gonna let it run for another 10 minutes and then we'll see. Actually, now I want to see if the Alpine is chuffing. Okay, does the Alpine chuff? Yes. But it's not really, I don't know if it's chuffing or it's just something. Yeah, you can hear it's noisy. Something almost rattling. Even on lower level you can hear something, but yeah. That's the Alpine moving. So yeah, both of them are, like most of the subs will have some chuffing happening because they're supposed to be mounted in the box, so it's not really a surprise. Yes, 25 hertz, 24 hertz, Alpine is chuffing like a helicopter. Yeah, no surprise at all. 20 hertz. Don't mount it inverted and you're gonna be fine. From the front, you cannot hear anything. Okay, no air leaks. I did connect it in series up to 4 ohms because my monoblock cannot handle 1 ohm. So 4 ohm final load, no leaks, 0.3 cubic foot sealed enclosure. So with this data, we're going to compare stereo integrity BM-11 with the Alpine shallow mount because I am personally choosing between two of them to see which one would suit my install and my needs better. We're going to start with the modeling. This you saw if you watched the previous video when I tested multiple different subwoofers. So the green one is stereo integrity and the blue one is Alpine. Alpine has a higher Q. Stereo integrity has, what does it have? 0.8, so it is a slightly lower Q compared to the Alpine, but it's still high. So the box, the one that I'm testing, is 0.3 cubic feet, same like I did the tests in, and QTC for the Alpine is 2, and for stereo integrity is 1.4. So it is a lower one, and that's why we see the transfer function that the stereo integrity doesn't play that lower. Now let's have a look at the cone excursion. The Alpine with 700 watts is like half of Xmax, as we saw. Stereo integrity as well, very low. The recommended box is 0.5, so it reaches about 10 millimeters of Xmax. Now I could put potentially it's in 1 cubic foot and it would still be within Xmax, applying 500 watts, which is great. So I might test it in 1 cubic foot enclosure. Now let's go back to 0.3 and let's have a look at the SPL at rated power. So here signal SI is 500, Alpine is 700. On same wattage, 500, 500, they play exactly the same up to 55, and then SI plays higher at higher frequencies. At rated power, Alpine needs a little bit more power, exactly the same as we saw for previously, that Alpine plays a little bit louder at lower frequencies. Now let's have a look at the impedance graph. This is in free air, so break-in worked. We have 33.6 Hertz FS. It's claimed 34.1, so extremely close. We can say it is broken in. See guys, 10 minutes at lower frequencies, close to Xmax, it does it. You don't need more. And we have a steady rise of inductance. There's no blips, no nothing. If we have a look at the performance inside an enclosure, obviously, the FB is higher at 60 Hertz, but again, no blips, no nothing. That means there's no resonances. The chuffing of the pole vent doesn't influence anything, because if it would show up as a blip in the impedance graph. It's fine. Now, I do have for comparison the shallow mount, again, wired at 8 ohms in series, because I wired this one in series as well. So that's the Alpine. The FB is slightly lower, so we can expect that it's going to play a tiny bit lower. The impedance obviously is higher, and the Alpine has this blip where it's just there, not sure why. So let's have a look at acoustical measurements now. This is a comparison of the Alpine and the stereo integrity in a footwell, 0.3 cubic foot sealed enclosure. Now this response is, if you haven't seen any of my previous videos, this peak is just because it is in a small enclosure and it's in the footwell. If you would put the same enclosure in the back, in the boot, you would have all the low end that you need. However, as I mentioned, I'm testing it as a front subwoofer. Now the response is extremely similar, and same like we saw from the impedance graph, same like we saw from the modeling, Alpine does play a tiny bit lower. So this is not the same power. I just matched the maximum SPL at these peaks in order for me to check the distortion and all the other stuff at the same output, not at the same like amplifier output. Same like here, we saw that Alpine plays a bit lower. However, at slightly higher frequencies, the stereo integrity plays higher, and we see exactly that. So at 113 hertz, we have a difference of like 4 decibels. And yes, stereo integrity plays a little bit higher, Alpine plays a little bit lower. Now, let's have a look at the distortion. These measurements were taken on slightly low level. That's why all of this is in the floor noise. Like you see above 100 hertz. So like here, above 100 hertz, everything is down, because what we are interested in is basically everything below 100 and probably down to 35 or so. So like down to here. And the difference is that the stereo integrity is cleaner at higher frequencies, like above 60, and this is just noise. So above 60, stereo integrity is cleaner. Down to 50 is kind of the same, and below 50, Alpine is a bit cleaner. So we have points at 64, 50, and below. Let's have a look here. 64, which is this, then 50, and then this. So basically, below 50, below here, the level is the same, and the Alpine is a little bit cleaner. This range is exactly the same distortion-wise, and above this 67, even if the stereo integrity plays a little bit higher in level, it does have lower distortion there. For a front subwoofer purpose, I want to say stereo integrity wins the distortion-wise, just because it is cleaner at the higher frequencies where the front subwoofer blends into the mid-bass drivers. So that is very good to see. This rising distortion at lower frequencies is not as important because the level is low, and that is where the infinite baffle subwoofer is overtaking it. And the difference is between 0.5% and 1%, and here between 1% and 2%, which is at 30 hertz is inaudible. And the main thing that I wanted to check is the impulse. And here we see the difference that I wanted to see, and to be honest, I was expecting this. The Alpine is in red, and the Alpine has a lower impulse compared to the stereo integrity. The stereo integrity has a slightly shorter. Now, is it audible? That's going to be highly debatable. However, from objective measurement perspective, stereo integrity is slightly better than the Alpine, with a distortion at higher frequencies and with the impulse. Now, the main question you have to ask yourself, how important for you is this low-end reproduction? If you prioritize the very low end, below 60, I want to say, then probably Alpine is going to be your choice. If you're prioritizing the higher frequencies a little bit, then I would say the stereo integrity would be your best choice. So, final thoughts. After testing this, after testing the Alpine, it doesn't make my life any easier. It makes it even more complicated. The Alpine is insensitive. It needs more power. However, it does play better at lower frequencies, whereas this shine at slightly higher frequencies. The mounting depth is almost identical. The size is almost identical. They can play in identical enclosures, up to 1 cubic foot for both. Performance, I would like to say that you won't be able to tell the difference between the two, and the difference is going to be only measurable. So whichever you choose is going to be a very solid option. Output-wise, distortion-wise, impulse-wise, they're almost identical. This one takes the edge a tiny bit, but I don't want to say that much. That would be two totally different drivers and they would perform totally different. No, they perform extremely similar. So it is complicated for me now because I don't know which one to use, this one or the Alpine. I am an Alpine fanboy, but to be honest, this one, it looks better. I don't know. I want to hear your comments under the video. Which one should I choose? The stereo integrity or the Alpine? Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.